to the Ignorance Project. Today, I'm really excited to have a childhood friend join me. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Shireen, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Okay.
well.
So, Michael, I reached out to you because, with the Ignorance Project, I always try to introduce new things that are happening. I definitely love to focus on Black lives, Black success, and kind of a different version of the Black experience than what we traditionally see in the media. And I saw you post something recently, and I'm like, I have to, like, how have I not reached out to him yet? Because you're doing some really amazing things. So, you want to just kind of talk about what you're doing right now, and then we'll take it from there?
Sure. So basically, what I'm doing is I recently launched a watch company back in December 2020. So just crossed over just 1 year, and you know, uh, it's been going well so far. Honestly, more than I ever expected. In terms of like the comments, the demand,
Yeah.
appreciation, and things like that. So, you know, during this time, during the pandemic, I wanted to do something that I've always wanted to do, which is start a business.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's going well.
Okay, so let's talk about like a few things because one, you're extremely humble. I mentioned I saw a post and I was like, oh, I have to reach out to him. The post was the picture that Michelle Obama posted on New Year's Eve with her husband, President Barack Obama, wearing one of your watches.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Um, Honestly, I think in the moment, it was like, oh, that's cool. But like, I think after a while, it was just like, man, to have, former President Barack Obama, it's like that's huge, and just more on that too. It's actually a collab between Teleport and Actively Black.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that.
yeah, so it's actually have it here with me. This is kind of like the box that comes in, and
Yeah.
so it's we kind of hooked up on the collab, and honestly, it's to see the support from 44 was just like, whoa, that's huge.
Surreal. That's amazing. And it means you're doing something right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really cool to see. Like
Mhm.
I have my own like uh feelings and passions about like what I want to do personally. So like to see the support from many others, including President Obama was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to backtrack a little bit, right? Because obviously we definitely see you kind of you're gonna blow up. I'm claiming it now, I'm saying. But you got an amazing product, right? What made you say watches, this is what I want to do right now?
Well, I would say I love wearing a timepiece. That's one thing that
Mhm.
actually I wore growing up here and there, but never really wore it like it since my I would say last 5 years. It's
Right.
kind of like, and another thing too is research. Like
Mhm.
something that like I noticed that there's something in the market where there's potential there, even though it's a saturated market. And I just thought that for me, like I'm pretty good with coming up with ideas
Mhm.
in terms of like maybe designing, coming up with the design, and honestly, just a lot of research. That's
Mhm.
probably the one thing that was just like, okay, and I actually was up at like 2 a.m. every night, like working on
Yeah.
it. So usually, when you're trying something new, when you're looking for something, sometimes it's like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but
Mhm.
it continued to be something before it was like actually, before I launched it. So that's why I kind of decided to go with it.
So you kind of just said one day, you know what? I love watches. Did you make your own watch? Like, how does that work?
Well, yeah. So usually, what I do is just basically find a manufacturer, a
Mm,
local manufacturer that has good ratings. It's something that's uh, something that I've wanted to look for when it comes, something that you should look for when it comes to finding, because it might not just be watches, it may be something else, whatever product it is. So like in terms of like product, like you have to do research. So I don't actually make it, but the manufacturer makes whatever design that I kind of draw for
You
them.
design it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know, for me, I recently started kind of branching out into like my own small business, right? And again, it's just something I had an idea for something, and I said, I'm going to try and do this. And I was
Yeah.
actually surprised, and I could say it feels really good to see how people receive your product.
Yeah.
Um, because it's kind of like your baby, right? It's like, oh, I don't know if anyone's gonna like this but me. But
All right.
seeing, I started making body scrubs and seeing people do that. And again, kind of going back to your comment about it being a saturated market,
Mhm.
um, it's intimidating to kind of say, what, I'm gonna push out something that already exists. But it's also very rewarding when you see people actually purchasing that thing that you put out that you feel passion for. Um, so my next question is probably a little bit selfish, but I think someone else can get something from it too. What advice would you give someone starting their small business?
Um, I would say just start.
Just
Um,
start.
yeah, like because a lot of times, like for me, because I this isn't the first business that I thought about
Mm,
starting. I've always wanted to start a business, and it just finally happened in 2020. But I think one advice that I would give is just making sure that you do um, your research on whatever it is that you want to start,
mhm.
but don't think that you have to know everything before, like, all right, because honestly, you really like kind of learn as you go, or you get
Yeah,
better as you go, or you get more information as you go. So yeah, for me, before I started, I made sure that I kind of looked at all the other watch companies that I could ever look at. And well, you don't necessarily steal in the business. Well, at least I look at, but you kind of like model to see what's already
mhm.
working. So instead of reinventing the wheel, like, oh, I'm going to do this amazing thing, you kind of like, okay, this is what's working. And then you kind of tweak it in a way that, you can bring your own, like flavor to it. So, start and consistency too. You don't have
Mm,
4 or 5 hours a day on anything. Honestly, I didn't. Starting off, it was just like a few hours, maybe not even a few hours, maybe about 30 minutes to an hour a day. And then just by putting in just a few minutes, like I was already into it. So it was just like, I'm
yeah,
not keeping track of time anymore.
yeah. It just
So
becomes like your passion.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
that's
So
awesome. Okay.
get started and build that consistency.
Yeah, and I know, especially with the pandemic, Salesforce reported that there are about 4 million new business owners since the beginning of 2020. So I think a lot of people are kind of on this trajectory where they're thinking, okay, what can I do? Because life is a lot different now than it was a few years ago. One. But the thing that surprised me the most was only about 25% of those businesses started out of necessity. Um, a lot of people are just starting to kind of think differently and they want to be their own boss. They want to have a little bit more control over the work that they're doing on a daily basis and their hours, et cetera. Even though I'd say it takes a lot more work to build something yourself than, go into a 9 to 5. So that's, that's interesting too.
Yeah, but the thing about that though is, I believe that anybody can start a business, and because we all have our own talents,
Mm,
and we all live in different areas in different time zones and different.
hmm.
So I don't think that. I think that if everybody in this world right now was just like, you know what, I want to start a business,
Yeah.
everybody can do it because everybody has their own individual talents.
Hmm.
So that's how I look at it. Some people are more like, you know what, I want to be a lawyer or a doctor or something that even if you went that route, you can still, have your own business
Right.
and side or something like that. But
Hmm.
I think literally everyone, if they can say, or if they wanted to say, you know what, I want to start something on my own. Like,
Hmm.
what am I good at? Or a product. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a burning passion, but
Hmm.
something that may interest them. So
Yeah.
that's what that is.
That's a good point. And another thing, I'm just thinking about like the buying power of the Black community specifically right now. Because I know, and I'm kicking myself because I'm not 100% sure about the statistic. So I will put the real one. I'll make sure I make a note in the video before I post it. But just looking at the buying power of the Black community versus other communities, and how in the Black community, our money does not stay long, right? So I have read, and again, this is in my head. I have to confirm this, but I've read that in the Jewish community, the dollar stays in the community for about 12 days versus, I believe the Asian community is about 3 days versus the Black community, which I think is just like one day. And I think of when we think about luxury and we think about, for me, I think Chanel and Louis Vuitton and Hermes and all this other stuff. But really, it would be great if we start thinking about luxury within our community, right? So I think about your business, and next time I want to buy a fancy watch, I'm looking for you instead
Right.
of going and looking to buy a Rolex or a timepiece that you traditionally know is expensive, because there are a lot of luxury Black brands that are coming up. And I just think it's really important for us to start like considering that as we make these types of purchases and saying, okay, how can we continue to invest within our own community? How can we continue to keep the dollar there? Because I mean, it has a lasting impact on a lot of other things that we don't necessarily consider, from like housing to education, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, Actively Black, how did that partnership happen?
Yeah, I mean, so the founder of Actively Black bought a watch from me mm, sometime towards the end of last year,
Okay.
and loved it so much he decided to post, and he got a lot of feedback. He was sharing with me that um, all the feedback that he was getting. So, eventually he reached out and it's like, hey, we would love to do a collab with the brand. I love
Hmm.
to watch, a lot of people have been kind of reaching out to me and things like that. So, we kind of hooked up and, had a conversation, and we agreed to do the collab.
That's awesome. Is the watch still available?
It is still available, actually. I guess you can provide the link. That is
Yeah, I'll add the link.
But it's still available. It's available for pre-order right now.
Hmm.
I think it should be able to be shipping out between mid-February, mid to end February. So
Okay, Black History Month.
yeah, yeah,
Perfect. All right, Michael. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really appreciate you having this conversation with me. I want to make sure you get to promote your brand. So you want to go ahead and say how people can reach you and purchase one of your watches?
yeah, sure. So you can go to teleportwatches.com. You can go to teleport INTL, that's abbreviation for international, on Facebook, or go to Teleport Watches on Instagram. There's a link to each of those profiles. You can also go to Actively Black. They have activelyblack.com.
Mhm.
This is also great company, great business, a lot
Yeah.
of great apparels that's there. But the collab that we're doing, I think you can kind of like add the link because it's a long URL, but
I'll add it.
but yeah, Teleport
Okay.
Watches would love the support. I mean, I've just been really enjoying and kind of being like mind blown about like what people are saying, and I think that's one of the things that kind of like I saw or realized from the beginning
Mhm.
that like this could or will go far. in terms of comments like, you know, this is going to be bigger than like AP, or this is going to be bigger than Rolex. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, stop playing. But then more and more people kept saying these things, and I started to believe it. Like, if you guys believing this, then, you know, let's see where this can go. So
That's the key. Believe in the product that you're pushing out, right? You have to.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So appreciate that affirmation too. You know, it's going to go far. I believe it.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Well, I'm going to post all the links that you said in in the comment section, and also I'll make sure that I post all your pages on my pages. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
So, like, I didn't realize how much Black business was in Huntsville. So I've heard that it's going to be blowing up soon. I've heard like there are a lot of things going on there, and it's going to be on the map. And I do think that show kind of helps that. So I'm curious to see like how that's going to develop in a few years. You know, I'm thinking maybe even like buying a place out there would be good right now.
Yeah, I actually heard about like Huntsville is really expanding when it comes to like new